just had it up. Give me 2 seconds. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting, specifically the time, date, and public call-in information were included in the meeting that was electronically sent to the Echo Sentinel and posted on the Township website. The public handout for this meeting can be viewed online at www.longhillnj.com. You want me to read the part about public comment, right?
Okay. Yeah.
The public comment period will be held in the orders listed on the agenda. When the mayor opens up the public comment, if you're using the computer, would like to add a public comment, please raise your hand. To raise your hand, click the participants button on the bar located at the bottom of your screen. Once the bar pops up, scroll to the right and there will be an option to raise hand. If you're dialing in and would like to make a public comment, press *9 when the mayor opens up public comment.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, you just want me to get started with the opening comments that I had?
If you wouldn't mind, yes.
Okay. So this is generally just a budget. I don't even know if I'd call it a workshop. It's just a opportunity for you as the governing body to hear from department heads, mostly for the most part, what they're looking for in their capital budgets. The operating budget that we are proposed equates to a 1.5% tax increase for residents. The impact on the average household in Long Hill would be $40 a year. That's obviously just the municipal portion, the only thing that we have control over. And the capital budget as proposed would incur no new debt for the township. The order that we have, I believe you all have this order. The 2 fire companies will go first, then the library, recreation department, DPW, police, and then OEM. If possible, we might flip OEM and police, because I know that Committeeman Ray said that he needed to leave for police. So we'll see how we're going on time. I think that it probably would make sense to have both Millington and Sterling come up at the same time, if that's okay with you. And does anybody have any questions before we get started? No, okay. Okay, so Chief White is here, and we'll bring up Chief Whitmore. And before we begin with the 2 fire companies, we are proposing in this budget that Millington would be able to get a new ladder truck, and ladder trucks are approximately $1.2 million. And because you have just eliminated all of your debt, we're proposing that you don't incur new debt. So we're hoping to do a lease purchase for this fire truck. And that's why we have $200,000 in Millington's budget, their capital budget, for the down payment. And then the following year, Sterling would be able to buy their truck. So John and Pat, whoever wants to go first, if you want to talk about the other parts of your capital request. Pat,
Sure.
since you're unmuted, why don't you start?
All right. So the positive pressure fan is a battery operated fan. It doesn't have any CO output. So it's a clean use of, especially when you're trying to vent a house out that's contains CO from an incident that's occurred. You don't want to have other byproducts from the engine. So that's why we're proposing going to a battery platform for the fan. That also would help us with not having to keep the fuel on the rig for that item. So moving forward, we're trying to also conserve on fuel costs by not having to have the combustion engine on the rig. Then we also have.
Can I
Go
interrupt
ahead.
you for 1 second?
Sure.
I don't think we have anything under that. Randy, am I looking at the right thing?
I think it's under tools or equipment.
I think we don't have anything for that. We have.
Oh, we don't have that under the capital budget, that item's under the other one.
I It was under, I think that was under equipment. I
Okay,
mean, not the actual, it was just a general equipment line.
general equipment line. Okay,
Is that, well, in this particular budget, we have $10,000 for water and ice rescue equipment.
Right.
The 200,000, as I'd mentioned earlier, for the
right.
truck, $15,000 for turnout gear, $3,000 for hose replacement, and $4,000 for SCBA cylinder replacement.
All right. Well, the gear's just the annual. We have gear that's coming out of service because it's hit its lifespan. So that's the typical amount that we spend on a yearly basis on the gear. As far as the ice and rescue gear, some of the gear has started to deteriorate over the years. So we're replacing some of our gear with newer equipment that has better thermal protection. So that was the cost behind that. We're replacing some of the equipment that we have. Some of it started to show signs of dry rot, so we had to replace some of that equipment. And then obviously the ladder replacement, our ladder's a 1992. We've had some extremely high repair costs. Typically, the NFPA says at the 20-year mark, you typically replace it. So we're well beyond that. So that's why we're putting in for the new ladder truck. Also, our ladder that we have with the proposed buildings that are coming into town, we would not be able to reach those buildings with our existing 75-foot ladder. That's why we need to go to the 100. And then we'd be able to do proper rescue and fire suppression for the new buildings that are coming in. And then the standard, the same thing with the SCBA bottles. They're just certain equipment that over the course of time we need to replace.
Okay.
What-
Yes, does anybody have any
So-
questions?
Yeah. So Pat, I just wanted to, well, it's a question. I'll phrase it in the form of a question, but I guess it ends up being a statement. But how old is the ladder truck that Millington has now?
It's a 1992.
Okay, and what's the lifespan of a ladder truck typically?
20 years.
Okay, and in that new math, I'll take out my calculator that Brendan likes to tease me about. That's roughly 2012 in that general area. That sound right?
No,
Well, no, no, I'm saying typically a 20-year lifespan would have expired
right, 2012.
2012.
Right.
So I know you characterized it as because of the new buildings that are coming into town,
Right.
but
But it's also, it's
Yeah.
reached its life expectancy as well.
and we do have other buildings in town, do we not, such as Lounsbury and some of the homes that are set back on Long Hill Road? That,
Right. There are
Yeah.
certain situations that that don't warrant us being able to get up to those buildings with the ladder truck that we have now. But with the amount of units that we're going to be putting into these buildings, in order to properly prepare that we'd be able to make the rescues necessary should we have a fire, we want to make sure we can protect the residents. So that's the reasoning behind it.
and that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that the public, who of course are the ones that pay for equipment, are aware that the ladder truck, in fact, is 29 years old, which is 9 years older than what is probably recommended. And that in fact, we already have a ladder truck which serves specific purposes above and beyond any new construction that may come into town. Would that be a fair comment?
Yes.
Thank you. That's it.
Does anybody else have questions for Chief White? All right, thank you. Chief Whitmore?
Yeah, we have some turnout gear that's going to have to be replaced this year. That's why we have 10,000 in our budget for it. We want to replace some radios.
98.
And that's $3,000. Rescue equipment, we have to upgrade. Ended up, we had a problem with our hydraulics, and we had to have that repaired. That's why it's at $8,500. And our SCBA's been replaced, so we're up to date on that. We just have 2,000 in there just in case we need some new bottles. Our rescue truck is in
98.
98, and it's past its life too. It's over 20 years old. Apparently, we're not gonna. 2023, Nancy, you said that we were gonna be looking into that. And fire hose, 5,000. You know, if we need to replace any more hose.
It could be next year, Chief.
Okay.
Assuming, we get this one this year, which is unlikely, but we could definitely start the process next year.
Okay. And pretty much that's it, We're not asking for much this year.
Does anybody have questions for Chief Whitmore? No? Okay. That was easy. All right, thank you both for coming. I'm going to,
You're welcome.
Thank you to both
Yeah.
Chief Whitmore and Chief White. Thank you.
You're
Chris
welcome.
Kuma's also here, there, Banger.
Yeah, the president of our company's listening in.
okay, do you want to stay?
Thank
for
you
the
as
rest of
well.
Do you want to stay for the rest of the meeting, or should I remove you?
You can remove me.
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah.
there's
All
nothing
right.
else that needs to be discussed, right?
No, I don't think there's anything else.
I mean, there's a lot of pretty faces up there on the screen, but
I'm uncomfortable with that comment. Were you referring to my face?
I was.
Of course. All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You as
too.
well.
All right, so you can hang out. They're gonna disconnect you.
I don't know.
Okay, so next up we have the library. Mary Grace is probably here. Okay, we're ready for you, Mary Grace. You just gotta unmute yourself.
There you go.
I'd like to thank Nancy and Randy for including us in the in this capital request. And hello, everyone. We are asking for 59,000. About 30,000 of that is for HVAC equipment. One of our furnaces, we have 11 furnaces up in the attic, 11 furnaces and air conditioners, and they have pretty much over the past few years started to reach the end of their happy little lives. I think the first one we replaced a few years ago was number 8, thanks to Guy and Brendan, which was the little area over in the vestibule. But right now, number 2, which services which heats the adult area, one of the furnaces that heats the adult area has actually been turned off because of carbon monoxide. And that's about $8,000 to replace that one. 2 of our condensers outside are cycling on and off, and those have been slated for replacement. And when Reiner was here last week doing the spring maintenance, they said that one of the other furnaces was not doing very well and should probably be replaced. We'll be getting an estimate on that. In addition, we had 2 electric water heaters, one in the big community room that's used by the public when we're open, when that room is open. That we had one of those heaters fail 2 years ago. And when they fail, they cause a flood. The flood was a nightmare. And so we would like to replace those before they fail, because they have passed the insurance company didn't want to cover the cost of those when we had the flood, because they said they should have been replaced because they were hit their life. So we want to replace those before they cause a flood. And I think that's it for the capital request.
So thank you. Actually, this is a legal question that I don't think you can answer. Jack and Nancy, and perhaps Randy, the American Rescue Plan, ARP, specifically lists, now granted, that is a moving target for the moment. They being the federal government, have not released final guidelines, but in the initial guidelines, they list HVAC systems as potential uses for the money that Long Hill Township will receive from the federal government. We haven't gone into that in too much detail in public, but it's roughly $400,000 a year in 21, 400,000 in 22. So Jack, do you think we might be able to use some of that funding to accomplish some of the goals for the library?
I think you're right, Mayor. I think we will be able to, but I'm not 100% certain.
And there's no way for you to be, because
Yeah, right.
not only haven't they released the money yet, they haven't released the guidelines.
No,
But my guess is they won't change at least that guideline, that HVAC systems in terms of public health.
I suspect you're right.
So Nancy and Randy, I don't know how to address this. While I support it completely, how would we, and I guess back to you, Jack, what happens if we do pay for it out of capital and then we receive the funding? I think you can. That's another thing now that I'm remembering what the guidelines said. You can apply it to spending that has already taken place. For example, what was done throughout Town Hall in order, the plexiglass coverings, that would be covered. So, and again, Jack, I put you on the spot. I don't know if that's something you can definitively answer, but it would appear we could pay for it out of capital. What happens then? Do we replenish it to where? Now, I guess this turns to you, Randy. Say we did that. How does the money get back into a different portion of the budget?
Yeah, Mayor, obviously this is complete speculation, because as you know, the federal government needs to do their interpretations, and then of course don't leave out the state of New Jersey for doing their interpretations. But the way our budget's playing out, we probably won't have a capital ordinance until the end of May, at which time hopefully we'll have better direction with that money. We can certainly put it in the capital improvement program, and if we get word that we are going to be receiving it and what we can use it for and so forth, we would do a chapter 159 to include it in the budget, and we just wouldn't spend the money that's in the budget for HVAC, because we have HVAC issues on our side also, which is in the capital budget. So, and Nancy and I have talked about this, pretty involved, that would be an eligible cost, and we would definitely take a look at that. Now, if we go and do that, I think there would be a mechanism where we could reimburse that capital item, as long as we show proof and everything that it qualifies.
But say we did with that last part that you just said, how does it manifest itself in terms of the overall tax increase? Does it reduce it? Does it go into a different line item? What happens?
The tax increase would remain the same.
And so where does that reimbursed money go to?
It would go into the capital fund. So in essence, we would have, it would be reimbursing that line, that item in the capital. So it would give us more money to use in the capital for a
Understood,
2022 project, if you will.
understood. Okay.
Right, and
And
I
I
suspect,
realize it's a little bit of a moving target, but I think the way what Jack said, and what I said as well is fair. I just don't see them changing that part of the guidelines. Even though the state of New Jersey likes to do stuff like that, I don't see that being in their best interest.
and
I
I
agree.
suspect that air filtration systems will be
Right.
covered. I don't know if the whole HVAC, we were counting on I mean, when we put this budget together, first of all, we didn't know about that money, but secondly, we assumed
Mhm.
that the actual HVAC replacements would not be covered, but maybe the air filtration part that we
Yep,
intend
I
to
agree.
put in would be covered. So
Yeah, I'm not questioning the way this budget was put together.
no,
As
I
much
didn't
as,
think you were.
it changes things a little. And Mary Grace, I apologize that that's really not a tangent that, in the sense of, I want to be clear, I support the proposal. It's just a question of what will happen in the ensuing months. So I apologize if you had more you wanted to say.
Well, I know the focus of this meeting is capital, but some of our request isn't capital, it falls under operating. Because we have a budget shortfall, because we've added streaming services in order to deliver, with the pandemic. We've really been doing a lot of outreach. We deliver things instead of people coming to the library, we deliver them, we push them right into the homes now. And, the cost of the streaming services, whether it's movies, books, audiobooks, that cost us about $9,000 last year. We're also doing a lot of outreach with what we call make and take bags, so that while a lot of people aren't coming in actually to have events here at the library, just between January and now, we've sent home 650 take and make bags, which means that we've put these bags together with all the materials that someone would need to do a craft or a gingerbread house, or make a citizen science, all that kind of stuff. And all of that costs money. Of course, we feel like every dollar we spend, based on the ROI we can calculate, is that every dollar you give us, we return to the community, for $3.50. The other thing too is, like most of our budget is used up on personnel costs. Oops. Hello.
Nancy, did we lose?
No. She's trying to show us, I believe it's a graph.
I've
Rock
lost the screen. Can you still hear me?
We can
can-
hear you, but we see you hit share screen. Mary Grace, I don't know if you intended to bring a
no.
chart up.
No, I didn't.
You didn't? Okay.
Okay. Leave? No, cancel. Oh, good grief.
If I could just interrupt you for a second, anybody who's raising their hand, public comment does not come in until the end of the meeting. So,
What is on the screen?
well, right now we could see, everybody's little box, but your little Long Hill Library owl is up.
Okay.
Are you trying to share your screen?
No, I'm not.
Okay, now we have you back. Go ahead.
Okay. My screen is still blank. I'm not sure why.
Mary
you
Grace,
know,
just
go
to
ahead.
let you know, Mary Grace, the extra money that you have requested is in the municipal budget for this year.
Okay, okay. I just, to add a plug for the library, I do want, I'm not sure if you know that, most of the surrounding libraries are not open. And we have been open, our doors have been open to the public since July 8th. And the other libraries like Berkeley Heights is closed, Bernard's Township, Madison and Chatham. When patrons go there, they tell us it's like trying to break into Fort Knox. And all the folks that come here just are so pleased that they can come in and browse and feel normal, that it's a wonderful thing. Back before the pandemic, we used to brag that we got 400 people a day in here. And now we get between 130 and 180 a day, which I think is pretty amazing. So if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Well, I just want to circle back to Randy. So in the operating budget, the second part of what Mary Grace referenced is already budgeted for. Is that a true statement?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So in this call, we can concentrate on the capitals aspect of it.
I mean, you can focus on anything you want.
The shabby shape of the Baltimore Oriole starting
Anything budget
pictures.
related.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Any township committee members? Deputy Mayor Ray, do you have questions for Mary Grace?
No, other than, just keep up the good work. It's a great resource we have in the library.
And actually, Brendan promised that someday he will actually read a book.
I'll learn to read.
Okay, so if there's no questions, Mary Grace, do you want to stay for the rest of the meeting? I can just.
I would like to, in case there are, questions or public comments at the end.
Okay. I'm hoping not to remove you. So I'm just gonna mute you and see how that works, and then stop the video. All right, well, we'll just leave her there for now. So next we have recreation. So I will ask Lisa to come on. And just to give all of you a refresher, in the recommended budget, we have, and Lisa can go over this, dugouts at Myersville Field for $20,000. $193,700 for lighting at Cantor basketball and tennis courts, $10,000 for baseball, softball field rehab, $3,200 for a Whibbit replacement piece. And I think we have $15,000 for bathroom repair here out at Cantor Park. And that is, I believe that's all we have in this year's budget. So Lisa, you want to elaborate?
Sure. One of the things that we've been talking a lot about is lighting. And so I will go through what we prioritized, which is the project that we talked about, lighting the tennis courts at Cantor Park, and at the same time lighting that basketball court also at Cantor Park. We've also talked about expanding the lighting that's at the Myersville softball field. The lighting that's there right now is from the early 90s, and it's really not up to snuff any longer. And the way that they measure and tell you what you need for lighting is it's based on the type of play that's happening. the ages of the athletes, because the older they get, the more forceful they can be with a ball. And then the amount of lumens that are needed for a ball traveling that quickly. So we know that we've got to upgrade the lighting that exists at Myersville Field at some point. The lighting that we've been talking about going around the tennis courts and the basketball court at Cantor Park. Years ago, when they did this park, they actually put the conduits in the ground, which was very insightful to do. And it helped when we put the lighting around the turf field. These figures are based on Musco lighting, which is what we put on the turf field, and it's LED lighting. So it costs less to run, and it gives a much lower casting than the halide lighting that a lot of fields have. When we put the LED lighting around the turf field back in 2016, we actually had to go out to Washington Valley, Pennsylvania, just to see this lighting. That's how new this technology is. But we've been very pleased with that lighting and working with Musco around the turf field with that lighting. I have the ability to turn the lights on and off from my phone. It takes about 4 seconds, which is really nice. The LED lights don't need to warm up. They come on and it's an instant off too. The Musco lighting is on the Keystone Co-op still, and that's how we purchased Musco lighting last time. And I believe we should still be a member of that co-op because your membership doesn't expire. So the total cost of the lighting around the tennis courts and the basketball court is $193,700. Randy, I do believe we've earmarked some money towards that over the past 2 years. Is that correct? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, my phones were ringing.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
For the tennis courts, yes, we do have it.
And then, so according to my notes, I have 82,000 earmarked already in there, and that would make it 111,700 additional that's needed to complete that project. The Musco lighting upgrade project for Myersville Ball Field, they actually gave me a range of 325,000 to 350,000. Since we've been going, since the pandemic, really, there's been a tremendous fluctuation in the pricing of steel and also the copper wiring and everything. So there is a range in the price there. That's why it's like that. We also, we've had the dugouts for Myersville Field on here for quite some time. It's more of a safety issue, protecting the kids when they're sitting waiting to go up for bat. And that Myersville Ball Field does get a lot of use because in town here, we only have 2 fields that are lit. So we have one field down at the LHBSA fields on Poplar Drive, and we also have Myersville Ball Field. So those usually they're playing till about 10 o'clock each night. The Whibbit is something that we have on a recurring basis because the inflatable obstacle course that we put into Sterling Lake is usually referred to as the Whibbit, and that is gets a lot of use by the kids, but each of those pieces has about a 5-year lifespan, and then once we start putting all the plugs on them to keep them afloat, they only last so long. So each year I have another piece that we put on. I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to put it back into Sterling Lake this summer. But we'll have to see what the allowances are per the governor in terms of what we can do during the pandemic. We may have to wait another year on it. We're not sure. And also the rehab number that's on there, it's really just to get more clay in and rework that field. Field gets a lot of usage, the Myersville ball field, so it's good to rehab it every couple of years. We call in a company to come do that. I think that covers everything, but the priority, the top three priorities happen to be the lighting and at projects at Cantor Park, the Whibbit piece, and the lighting projects at Myersville Ball Field.
So any committee folks have questions for Lisa?
I have a comment.
Fire away.
I would agree that the lighting at Cantor Field is a must. Especially if we do both of them at the same time, I believe we get a better price.
Yes. The pricing that I quoted is based on doing them together.
Yeah. I think the kids need something to do. People need something to do. The lights would be great. It's a great touch. Way overdue, in my opinion.
And in fact, I think for the benefit of the public, one of the reasons why we didn't proceed with half a project last year is exactly what you just said, Vic.
Yeah.
That we would have a better pricing, and Lisa, stop me if I'm wrong, if we did the projects together.
Yeah, there's a definite cost savings by doing them at the same time.
Hey, Lisa, this is Scott. I had a question. Is any thought given to the drainage around the field at Myersville?
Are you talking about the actual baseball field, or are you talking about between the parking lot and the roadway?
Yeah, the actual field. There seems to be gullies that form right outside the baselines.
When you do the regrading and working in new clay, a lot of those disappear.
Okay.
How about the flooding in between the street and the parking lot? And the parking lot area.
Yeah, it's difficult there because you are abutting wetlands all around that area there, and there is a gully there, but that can get overflowed too. When they redid the road, they did a substantial drainage project there. I guess last year or the year before. Everything's a blur in terms of years, but that made a significant difference for us putting in that drainage project. That was like night and day there.
Yeah, and in fact, we worked with the county on that. And that was the best they can do. We asked them to do a full-on drainage project, and the next thing we heard was a dial tone.
They did do a very good job, to their credit. They did do a very good job. It was much, much improved over how it was before they did that road.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment too, and I know it's out of scope for what we're talking about here because that's a county road, I believe. But it would be really, really nice to see them put up some caution children signs there, because it's very dangerous parking and kids getting out of the cars as cars zip down that road.
And Scott, that's a wonderful comment you just made, and I'm going to turn this to Jack now. Jack, that's a situation where, as we know, the county gets to dictate certain things, whether you put a tree on Valley Road and that kind of thing. But is this the type of situation where, if we would have put them in ourselves, is that something that, albeit the county has jurisdiction, is that something they would push back on? Because Scott's 100% right. Anybody who's ever used Myersville Field knows that the difference between that parking lot at some point and a 40-mile-an-hour road is nothing.
It really ought to be treated like a school crossing while games are being played.
Yeah, but they still have to approve traffic regulations.
All right. Maybe, what do you recommend? Should we have Nancy reach out to the county administrator to see what can be done and what we can do ourselves. I know the speed limit is not something we can unilaterally change.
Right. I would reach out to the county engineer's office.
So Nancy, would you mind doing that? Because that's something that comes up periodically and then it just fades away. And you know, and in part it fades away as someone's child ages out, they don't complain about it as much, myself included, right? It was a real serious issue to me when my children were a little bit younger, and I'm embarrassed to say that maybe we've dropped the ball on that in recent years. So,
and it's exacerbated by the fact that we're just limited in parking space at the field. A lot of people park down at the Myersville Inn and walk along that road.
100% true.
Okay, I'll reach out.
Or even Copper Springs, for that matter. They tend not to object to that.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any more questions for Lisa?
Well, so this isn't a question for Lisa, but to point, and I don't know if we burden the rec capital budget with this. This is something we started talking about last week, and you know, I'm embarrassed. You know, we ask everybody to present their budget requests in advance, and I neglected to bring this to your attention, Nancy. With these new lights, even without the new lights, we had assured the residents on Valley Road that there would be a screen, not just for the lights, but for the noise. How do we budget for providing a screen there that, because of natural reasons, the emerald ash borer being the biggest one, a lot of that screen has now been removed because the trees died and became dangerous. So how do we budget for that? I don't anticipate it being extremely expensive, but it's not nothing.
Well, if you're talking about the trees, right?
That is correct.
So I know that the Shade Tree Commission has been working with the Boy Scout who's doing his tree project, and we were going to use some of those trees. JCP&L was going to donate their, you know, through their tree program, the half dozen or so. And if we find a need for more, I believe, and Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we could take money out of the Open Space Trust Fund for that.
Yes, I agree, we can.
Okay. So the point is we can do it once we realize the extent of what might be necessary. I don't anticipate the Boy Scout project, which is Tommy Osmond, really providing what is needed there, because you would need trees that are, I think, more like 6-8 feet tall to start with, that grow up into maybe 20, 25 feet. And that's not cheap. And I don't anticipate that project in particular being able to accomplish that.
Okay, we can look into that.
And keep in mind, right, it's not just the lights, as wonderful as they are, as the latest technology as they are, where they don't have the expansion of the, whatever it's called, the lumens, et cetera. What we're proposing now is even closer to Valley Road than the lit turf field. So I think this is something that should be on our radar in the immediate or the near future, when the lights are in fact put in. Anyway, Lisa, I didn't want to take up your time on that, but I think they're kind of tied together. But Jack answered my question. We do have a funding source, and it's not that expensive.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we have the Department of Public Works. The director, Al Gallo, is here, and while he's coming on, I will remind you that in this budget, we have $300,000 for phase 1 of the Cross Hill Road project, $85,000 for a Ford 750 with an 11-yard container that Al can talk about, $375,000 for our road paving project, which I believe is 7 roads. And
Where's my pasta? You gonna give me some?
I can elaborate on that. $20,000 for, it says DPW building repairs, and I'm not sure if that is on the wrong line, because I don't remember talking about that. A Chevy pickup with a lift gate and plow. We have $6,000 for snow plow replacement. And in this budget, because it's the place for it to go, we have $40,000 for sidewalk repair. And this was something that I had proposed to you a while ago, to do sidewalk repair around town of all the sidewalks, phased in. The engineer is currently looking at all of the sidewalks in town now that all the snow is gone, and giving me an estimate of how many linear feet we would need. And then obviously how much money we'd need for that. But, you know, if we could get it all done for 40,000, that's great, but otherwise it would be phase one. And I guess that's something we can talk about later, but it was something that I think needs to be done just to overhaul all the sidewalks in town. So that is also in the budget. And then we have $535,000 for the Central and Main paving project, but that is offset by a $261,000 grant that we received. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Al, if you want to elaborate on the request.
Sure. Hello, everybody. We want to start at the top, Nancy, with the Oaks Road project or Cross Hill project.
Sure, go ahead.
All right. So I guess this is going to be the first half of the project, which is going to be, I guess, the north side of Cross Hill Road. Is that correct, Nance? I haven't talked to Paul.
I think it's west. It's the top. It's the side that goes. It's
going towards Baskin Ridge Road.
Closer to Oaks Road.
Correct. Down the Baskin Ridge. Okay. So I did talk to Guy this week a little bit, and this was mentioned. I really need to talk to Paul on the other half for next year. I think there could be some savings. I know there was a proposed budget in the past of I think close to $1 million, correct, Nancy, for the whole project?
It initially was, I believe, $750,000.
Right. Okay.
And the cost was reduced a little bit.
Okay. So Paul knows what the number is here for 300,000, which I think is the top half of the project. I took a ride there the other day. That top half of that road is destroyed, and it has been. I keep patching it, and it's just not holding up because the water sits there and it gets traffic in the mornings. People come down to the train station. Next item is the Ford 750. I know I listed Ford. It might be a Chevy. There is issues with getting vehicles through the co-op. I was already told that the vehicle is going to be a 2022 if approved. 21s are gone. This truck will serve multiple purposes. It'll have a container that will roll off that we could transport our own scrap metal and bring in more revenue for the township instead of a company coming here and charging us a lower dollar amount for this scrap. It'd be good for any storms that we have as far as debris pickup. It's a little larger than our regular mason dumps. This price includes a snowplow, a larger snowplow, 11-foot snowplow. It's something that when we pick up metal, instead of sending 2 trucks, we could send out 1 truck and just be better utilized on saving time. And like I said, bringing in more revenue for the town when we pick up scrap metal. Delivering mulch, be 11 yards of mulch. So when some of these residents would like, when they order the mulch, they order 2 loads. We don't have to travel back and forth. We'll bring 1 larger truck, $230 for that truck size, and we're saving time. That truck is replacing a 2000 Ford that we have now.
Could you repeat that? What year?
A 2000.
Who was president then?
And that truck is currently half of the seat is pretty much gone. So only the driver could to get in the truck. It's severely rusted. It still drives and runs. It made it through the snowstorm this year, but that's the truck I'm looking to replace with that. $375,000 for road repaving. I have the list of roads in front of me. Do you want me to read them off, Mayor?
How many are there?
There are 1, 2, 3, 7 roads.
Okay, why not? Go ahead.
So let me just say here. One's Old Forge, the complete length of Old Forge, from the top to Long Hill to Bungalow. Charles Road, Stephanie Drive, Bungalow Terrace, Cottage Place West, the entire length, and Clover Hill Road in Millington. So we try to do a couple in each town, and it worked out this year. There's several in Milton, several in Gillette, and a couple in Sterling.
And can I ask you a question about that? I know going back maybe 10 years or so, we had fallen behind, we being the town, in maintaining roads on a regular basis. Have we caught up? And the significance of that, correct me if I'm wrong, is if you do a whole bunch of roads in 1 year, yay. But the issue is roads typically have a life expectancy, and what would happen in 10 years, 12 years, whatever that life expectancy is, they would all come offline at the same time. So is it true that it's critical that we maintain the annual capital investment in our roads as is proposed? And is the number that you just proposed and the number of streets proposed in line with that schedule?
So yes, two reasons for that. One, the blacktop is not lasting with all the recycled materials in it. In the past, we tried to do 10 roads at a time and a capital budget about $500,000, 500,000. But we are caught up according to our roads. This year we were able to cut back, and these are the roads that we figured need detention. Not saying that there might not be 10 roads next year, but I just felt that these are the roads that need to be addressed this year. But it could be the same thing, right? It could be just 6 more roads next year. It could be 4 roads. It all depends on the winters we have. And but thanks to the township and the program we've had, we are definitely almost there as far as catching up and keeping the roads on track.
Thank you, Al.
Yeah.
Any questions from the township committee for DPW Director Al Gallo?
He's not finished yet.
Well, we're not done.
Hey, that was a good try on my part, though, wasn't it?
The $20,000 that Nancy put under building repairs. It's not a building repair. It's actually a building structure for storing the equipment. Everything here pretty much sits outside and gets ruined. I have an area 30 by 60 that I would like to put a three kind of garage, 3-sided port on the stone, not on concrete, because if we do concrete, we're going to have DEP involvement. Just something where the overhang, where the equipment will be protected. That was put in because everything gets ruined by the sun and the weather that just sits out in the lot. And now that the lot's paved, I think we can get a few more years out of our equipment if stored properly. And the Chevy pickup, we did receive a new truck last year from the town that replaced the, let me have my sheet here. That replaced the 2003 GMC. This year, the truck that it'll be replacing is another pickup, a Ford pickup. And that one is a 2002 that it'll be replacing. So we're not adding any vehicles. We are getting rid of some of our older vehicles that are costing us money. And this year we sold a lot of equipment on government sites. And we actually have a round right now. We have auctions going on and selling equipment, and that's run real well this year. I think we've brought in over 11,000 equipment from the first round of municipal bid that we put out, and we have 5 or 6 vehicles on there right now. And I think that was it on my end. Oh, and the $6,000 is for truck 65, which is 2008. I can no longer get the frame parts for that plow. I need to change out the whole plow frame and unit. And that's, figured I asked for the 6,000 to replace that whole 9-foot plow for that pickup. Because I'm not, if we have another winter like we had this year, it definitely not going to make it. And I think that's it. Nancy, right?
Right, those are all your things. There's the grant.
Okay, so now any questions, comments from the Township Committee? All right, then, Al, thank you very much. You're welcome
Thank
to
you.
stay if you want. Your call. But I think, Nancy, you can proceed.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you,
yes,
Al.
I'll hang on if anybody has comments, but I'll just turn
From
my
the public. Okay, that's not a bad idea. Thank you for doing so.
All right, I'll put you back in the attendee section. Okay, so next is, I see that we don't have the OEM director here yet, so I was going to switch that order, but we'll have to go to police.
So, Jack, if I don't participate, can I remain or do I have to leave?
Yeah, I think you can listen as long as you don't participate. No action is being taken, so.
Right. Okay.
So as we're waiting for the chief, just to remind you, there's the operating budget, which the chief can talk about for police cars, but then we also have in the capital budget, we have $30,000 for range improvements, $50,000 for a generator, $20,000 for solar powered school signs, $25,000 for cameras for the facility, $100,000 for facility repairs, $23,000 for rifle replacements, and that is all that is in this capital budget. Go ahead, Chief.
Good evening, I guess. I'm not seeing my screen. Am I coming through okay, audio and video?
No video, but audio.
Let me see if I can fix that.
Now we can see you.
Not that you probably wanted to, but we'll keep going. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. Sounds like Administrator Mool shared the request with you that we had submitted. Just to give you a brief background on the school beacons, we've gone back and forth, and by school beacons, it's the ones in front of Gillette School that set the speed limit during dismissal times. Those have become so outdated. Again, we find ourselves in these scenarios quite frequently where we can't get replacement parts, or the inner workings, the computer parts are no longer available, and we turn to either an eBay situation to look for used parts, and that's not really the environment we want to be in. In the past, prior chiefs have tried to approach the county, be it on a county road, to partake in these projects, and we haven't been successful. Not saying that they can't change their mind, but it's my understanding it ends up being in the purview of the police department to address the speed in that area by use of these beacons. So the biggest problem is it's not a set radar, or it's not a set speed limit. It adjusts throughout the day, various times during the day, and it has to be somewhat accessible to the police department. We no longer have a traffic services section that handles that. So whatever avenue we take with this has to be somewhat easily accessible to the general patrolman or the general supervisor to be able to program the various times. The one that we currently have, one side is working, one side is not. That will create an issue down the road if somebody comes through that speed zone, not doing the 25 mile per hour speed zone or the speed limit.
But one, it's not going to be enforceable because they're not properly functioning. So as it stands right now, we have a difficult time enforcing the 25 miles per hour speed limit. It would be of great assistance, I'm sure, to the school and to the students for safety purposes to get those 2 beacons up and running. So I'm looking for hopefully approval on that down the road.
Is this, Chief, can I ask, is this just for Gillette School? What about Central and Millington?
Our priority right now, well, Central School is set at 25 all the time, so it's not as much of a concern, right? The one that we have the problems with, the speed, the traffic, is Valley Road. So that's why we approached it. Eventually, I think it'd be a good idea to put one down by Milton School as well. There's a hill that's a concern there where pedestrians cross that we may need to take some action on down the road. But definitely, I'd like to start with the Valley Road project, if agreeable by you, gentlemen.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions on the beacons? The only other thing I'll add is I did work briefly with Administrator Malul and the grant company to see if there's any grants specific to safe routes to school, and they did not see that. And Administrator can correct me if I'm wrong. They did not see that as a highly possible project for them to take on that we probably would not see funding. So we did seek out the potential for grants or looked around to see if we can get grants, and I don't think it's feasible, but unless, right. So I think we're gonna have to do this one on our own. If it's a new route being developed, they would probably assist, but being that this is a replacement, that this is in existence, they're not really interested in this type of project. So we did seek other funding for that. It doesn't look very promising. Any particular order, Administrator, you want me to go through, or just?
No,
okay.
whatever you'd like.
All right, let's go with the facility cameras. The facility cameras are running on analog technology, and community member Vic Verleza stopped by not too long ago to take a look at the facility and evaluate what we have and what we don't have. And most home security systems or more surveillance camera systems that are put in the homeowners, private residence is in much better quality. It's quite distorted, grainy, and the amount of space it takes to upload that for discovery purposes is quite significant. The cameras are at least original to some extent as far as probably 2003. We have replaced some cameras along the way, but they had to stay to the analog technology, if you want to call it technology, because that's what the system is. So to my knowledge, we have done some replacements, but not an official upgrade of the camera system. Obviously, cameras are vital in our area of work, and they have probably done a lot more good for this agency and for this town over the years of various either accusations or just for proof of what actions we've taken. These cover processing areas, jail cell areas, parking lot where officers are coming in and out, the lobby, the various areas where we interact with the public. So I would request that you guys give that some thought. We have scaled it down quite a bit. It was originally for $40,000. We scaled it down to $25,000. That will get us the basics of what we need to move forward. So again, I'd like hopefully to get that as a capital budget request. Range improvements. We started this project a couple of years ago, I guess, with some improvements. Most recently, we did resurface the blacktop as there was quite a bit of potholes and grass growing through the range to make it less hazardous for the officers. We've utilized a couple of rain sheds to give them areas to clean their weapons and store various equipment. The next biggest hurdle in trying to get the officers more time on the range is to deal with the noise reduction. We currently receive somewhat frequent complaints regarding the noise and the way the noise travels through the various neighborhoods. And while we appreciate the residents working with us, we would like to continue and actually advance our firearms training program. And not to make light of it, but you really only get one shot at doing this right, no pun intended. So I'd like to get the officers on the range to utilize it, and hopefully make this a project that down the road we could potentially involve residents in the access to it. Now, I don't know if that's feasible or not. That's probably something I'd have to discuss with either with Jack or Jeff, but received several requests from residents on their ability to be able to have access to that range. With that in mind and the potential that it might be a possibility, we'd like to remedy the noise issue, start to put some kind of roof structure over the range as a cap to the sound. We would use noise reduction. It's basically insulation or paneling to absorb the sound and not allow it to carry on through the various neighborhoods that are near a range. So that's what that money would be used for. We had originally received a quote of $80,000 to complete that project. We are going to attempt to get it done for the $30,000. Be quite a challenge, but at least if not the full project, we'll get most of the project done with those funds. Other than that, that's pretty much it for the range. Do you have any questions on the range for me or any input on that? Nope.
TC members, none?
What was that, sir?
No, I was just asking if there are any township committee members with questions. I
No
don't think we
questions
have any.
here. No questions here.
Okay.
Great, moving along. The generator, I'm pretty sure, I think we're all in agreement. You agreed to this last year, but we assisted another department in some of their capital projects and basically relinquished those funds to assist in other areas in the town. So you had it approved for last year, budgeted in 2020, but I think we have somewhat of a verbal agreement that we are going to look at it for this year. Again, the current generator is one that was received free from the military during surplus, but it's not a standby generator. It's a generator that I think altogether you have to hit or push or twist about 20 applications before you get it to push power to the building. It's not feasible during a storm. So I think a standby generator for the police department would be necessary and very well past due. So any questions on the generator?
Nope.
Okay. Rifle replacements. This past year alone, we had two what is classified by the firearms instructors as catastrophic failures. With the rifles are over 20 years old. And while they're not used on a daily basis, they are trained on. When we do train, obviously a significant amount of rounds with the rifle deteriorate the parts. The working part, the bolt of the rifle is literally shattered in the process of qualifying at the range. We've had them repaired during firearms certifications for range instructors for rifles. And we've received feedback from the instructors that our rifles out of the other agencies they've encountered are in pretty much the worst shape they have seen. While we've been lucky so far, I really don't want to roll the dice on this one. We do have a good program to trade in the old rifles and receive new rifles. Hopefully upon your approval, we'll be able to move that project through and equip our officers with rifles that are a little bit more newer in age. Any questions on the rifle? No? Okay, last but not least is the facility repairs. And if I can just share my screen briefly, some of you have been in the police department, some of you have not, at least not in recent times. We've obviously, we're, we've suffered some storm damage, flooding over the years, and we've taken some measures to protect the facility. But needless to say, because of the water table and the area we're in, we are experiencing significant damage on the first floor, mainly heaving of the first floor the first floor ground or and foundation. Let me see if I could share that with you. Are you able to see this or no?
No. Do you want to email them to me? And I could show you?
I couldn't. Unfortunately, I tried to email the pictures and the email server rejected it. So let me see if I can go back. Yeah, it's only allowing me access to share. Oh, here we go. Let me see if I can do this. Does that work?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll start with the basic stuff. Let me just move this out of the way. So this is the carpeting in the second floor of the conference room. These are, if you recognize these chairs, some of the committee members, these were thrown out by the committee a few years ago, and we actually retrieved them from the garbage and reallocated them to the police department. The arms are basically fallen off or worn down, but this is basically what's in our conference room right now. We tried to, put screws back in the arms to hold them together, and I think we've given up. They've basically fallen apart. So there's some new furniture involved. This is just some of the framing where the doors don't properly close. Obviously, there's some settling that can be rectified through repairs. This is the carpet again on the second floor. Could not tell you the last time it's been replaced. I think it was during the time Chief Peoples was here. So it's been a significant amount of time. This is the men's bathroom that the officers typically utilize on a daily basis. And typically what you'll get the press board floating down while they're washing their hands down the sides and onto the floor. Rust and broken pieces. The guys that are dressed in dress shirts and ties, they will typically get their clothes caught up on this nice Formica and get rips and pulls in their clothes. You can see it's run down. It hasn't been touched in ages. This is the female bathroom, similar situation. You can see the flap here, Formica pulling off. They try to do the best they can with it, but no soap dispensers. They're bringing their own soap to utilize. So we'd like to freshen that up a little bit for them. Various stains on the carpet throughout the building. This is a monitor that I brought in that's attached to a ceiling joist that gives access to the detectives to see what's going on around the building. Some spare, speakers to provide them sound during interviews. Again, what you'll see here is that the recurring theme is that everything was kind of, I don't want to say botched, but you kind of grab what you can and make it work for the last amount of years. This is our records room. Floor to ceiling, it's covered in records. I'm pretty sure if Don was on with us right now, he would have a little bit of an issue with items being this close to the ceiling, but we've literally run out of room and I'll show you a perfect example of that down the road here in a little bit. This is the other side of the records room. Floor to ceiling, we're full. We have no other space. This is our server room. This is the current state of it. We have a window air conditioning unit to keep the temperature proper in that room and to keep it cool. Again, this is a server room. If you look up here, and I think the police liaison, Vic Verleza, made note of this when he was here, the watermarks and the ceiling tiles just over our server. Not the best location, but again, we are a little bit out of room, and obviously we couldn't tell that this spot was going to leak previously. Steps going down or up into the second floor, worn out. The rail kind of rattles when you grab onto it. Again, here it is, the second flight of stairs. Floor tiles, they were replaced at the when Chief Hedden was here, and it might have been a little later. I apologize for that because I think we had one other flood that backed up into the building. But all the ceiling tiles, you can see just the filth that's growing out of them, and God knows what else is there. Worn down to the point they can't really clean them. That's actually the color is worn off. This is the break room. This is the female locker room, chipped vinyl tiles. Various ceiling tiles throughout the building with water stains, old factory style ceiling tiles. Female locker room, again, this is near the toilet area. Floor tiles that are popping up. You can see they're curved up. This is the report room. This is kind of like where the meat and potatoes are of the police department. This desk that you see here was brought in by Sergeant Newswander because we needed additional workspace. Missing outlet covers. Wires kind of run however way we could possibly get it to function. Worn down chairs. Missing ceiling tiles. Now, what's important about this picture is a couple things. You can see the wiring cluster that's here. This shelving unit and all the other things that are attached to it were done by one of our officers. This is the door to the male bathroom on the first floor. It's literally probably 4 feet away from the 2 desks where people sit down to do the reports. Not a comfortable setting for the person that's inside on the toilet and the people sitting here doing work. More times than not, they avoid it or they use it. Somebody walks in the room. It's an utter embarrassment. Can you guys still see the photos or no? Yeah? Okay. It said my screen sharing has been paused. I don't know if that was not allowed to screen share anymore or.
Yeah, we can still see it.
You can still, okay. Here's another view of the room where the 2 desks are in close proximity to the bathroom. Now this door is vented for whatever reason, and it's not pleasant, I can tell you that. This is the male bathroom downstairs that we're referring to. You'll see outdated fluorescent lights. DPW has tried and a plumber has tried to get parts for this. This particular faucet will leak. They do not have parts for this. I don't know what specific part, but they don't have parts for this. This floor up here, you can't really tell too much in the picture, but it kind of bumps up a little bit. There's some heaving going on the first floor. I'll demonstrate that in a sec. This is the processing room, and where you see black Gorilla Tape, that's basically where the tiles are popped up or the concrete's coming through the tiles. We put this mat over here to cover up. You'll see where it's popping up underneath. This bump right here, it looks like a little speed bump. That is the floor popping up. The concrete's pushing up onto the tiles. This is where we fingerprint, live scan the suspects, and this whole area where they stand is just nothing but a big bump. So constantly have to remind them to watch their footing so they don't trip and fall. Um, Here's another picture of it. The cells, the reason I take a picture of the cells is basically Department of Corrections does an annual inspection on our facility. And if they see any violations that may be of concern to prisoners or suspects, they bring it to our attention. We are on an annual kind of exemption right now, but it's running out. We have to address the jail cells, and the concern there is the way the bars are, they can no longer be in this format because prisoners will have access to tie clothing items around there and possibly use that in a attempt for suicide. So we have to do a modification or put the jail cells out of service. That will require either a metal mesh screen being welded over it, which is the easiest and cheapest way to rectify this problem, or completely remove these doors and put new doors, which is extremely expensive. So again, this is the other cells. This is where when residents come in, they want to be fingerprinted. This is the cabinet we use as a fingerprinting cabinet, completely covered in rust and whatever other things that developed over the years. Not a pretty sight. This is our parking lot with the generator. This container here is my best friend. This is what I use to fill up this generator when we need to utilize it during storms. Again, not the best setup, but we've kind of put it to use until the committee made a determination that we're not going. Go
I
ahead.
think you need to scroll down. I think we're a few pictures behind you on the side of your screen. Right now, we see a screen that has about 24 pictures on it, 32 pictures. The last one we can see is the black mat outside the door. So
Yeah.
if you could scroll down on your.
Let's see, resume share. So it's kind of like a really, really cheap movie where nothing was matching with the pictures.
I was trying to follow.
Oh, all right. Are we?
Chief, I don't know if you want to enlarge them, if you can, and then scroll through, if that's possible.
Sure. How are we doing now?
Can you point to the one you're on, that your mouse, your cursor's on the parking lot one, right? That's the
Correct.
one.
Yep. There's a green.
Right, so we only missed 5 of them.
Do you want me to go back, or you kind of get?
That's
Chief, I think you did a great job in describing it, so
Okay.
I'm fine. How are the others? Well, I think it's okay, Chief.
Okay. So right now we're looking at the parking lot where the old generator that was put out during Sandy, that's up here on this platform. That was a diesel run generator. We had various problems. Needless to say, it cannot be replaced at this point, or we can't be repairing it. There's no parts for it. Plus the diesel delivery was almost impossible during Sandy because of access. So it was deemed kind of useless at some point. And either way, it's broken to the point where we can't fix it. So here's what we currently use. We typically get a couple of fills from DPW as far as diesel to run the generator, but I'm guessing we're going to move forward with that project, hopefully. Again, some broken down fence in the area and, that was around the generator that would need to be repaired. It's a better view of it. Is it kind of moving now with as I'm scrolling through just showing the fence and the shed?
Well, they're all on the screen at the same time, so I don't know.
Oh, wow, it's showing me just a single picture, so.
No, you're on a gallery view, Chief. You've been on that for the whole time.
Oh, well, that's not helpful because I'm looking at a very large.
Chief, do you have 2 monitors?
No.
No, you just have one?
Using a laptop, and it's what's supposed to be on my screen is.
Maybe if you double click on one of the pictures, it will enlarge. I mean, I think everybody gets the, even at this distance, everybody can see.
Right. Huh. doesn't seem to let me out of there. I apologize for that. I don't know why it's doing that, but did I lose
Now
you
we
guys?
don't see anything.
How about now? Anything?
Nope, just black. Now we're back to the multi-picture screen.
Yeah, it's being difficult. Let me try one more time. Yeah, let me just get out of that real quick. And is that better?
Yeah, now you got it.
Okay. So this is that fence I was trying to illustrate around the old generator that will need to be either replaced or done up as part of the generator work. Some damage there to our motorcycle shed. This is the inside of the shed. The water pretty much leaks directly into there. You can see the hole in the corner there. Believe it or not, these are records that are black mold that are not allowed to be put back into the building, and we are awaiting approval from the state to destroy them. The reason they got to this point is we ran out of room in our records facility, and we had to transfer over into this shed. This is where they came from. You can see the white line here is where they tried to remediate or rehab the mold that was in there. You can see on the cabinets some prior water lines that were there from floods. So now that we're aware that this area is susceptible to flooding, we have to address our records concerns. And I think Megan will back me up on this. Some records we had to maintain for 75 years. So that's a large amount of records that we had to take care of. Again, you can just see the condition of the filing facility. Water starting to seep back in, even after we've already addressed it through insurance. Outside the building, not the greatest shape, but at least it's not a safety concern at this point. The fence back here, you can't really tell too good in this picture, but it falls over if we get a decent storm. We just kind of pull it back up, put a couple of nails or screws back into the post, which is almost down on as well. Not really a safe area. It's just a wiring concern. This is a sump pump in the report room that's underneath one of the desks that was put in there to assist with future flooding. Again, you can see the common theme here is nothing really is coordinated in the facility. Everything is kind of done, borrowed or older pieces of equipment.
Question, Chief Nog, on the records.
Yes, sir.
Is it legitimate, or have we explored whatever project would be to scan those and turn them into electronic and get rid of the paper?
Coincidentally enough, I spoke with the clerk a couple weeks ago, I think it was, and she had the wonderful opportunity to tour the records facility that we call. And I think we're in agreement. Something has to be done. Right now our hands are a little bit tied by the state. We're waiting for them to give us approval for what needs to be destroyed. The requests are a little bit unreasonable because they want pictures of the black moldy documents, which I don't have anybody to do that for them, but I think they get the picture that we're in need. So the clerk was over a couple weeks ago, and we're in agreement that we're either going to look at an off-site storage, which is not the most feasible. It's going to require travel back and forth if we need documents. But I'm aware that there's technology there to scan it. The last time the state was here, they told us that even though we scanned it, and Megan can correct me if I'm wrong, that they still wanted us to retain the originals. And I don't know if I see Jack nodding his head yes. So while it would be a blessing to scan all those documents in hopes that we would be able to destroy them, I guess it would have to come through the state. I don't know if it's the GRC or I don't know who would actually give us their blessing, but whoever came here from the state last time, they said we could not destroy those documents. We had to retain them. But
Mayor, if I could just interject, we are looking at, I wanted to obviously talk to you about it when we do get the money, but we are looking at a scanning service as to utilize part of that $400,000 or $800,000. Obviously, to make all of our documents digital, to digitize everything, would fit in with the whole COVID response that we'd rather have our documents available electronically. And while some of them cannot be destroyed, they could more easily be moved off site once they are electronic. So that would take care of some of the space issues and hopefully prevent, as far as I'm concerned, it's a double benefit because it prevents them from flooding, being destroyed by flooding, things like that.
Right. And just a couple more items of discussion. I guess we forgo some of the repair work over the past years, or the idea to repair anything, because there was a potential study, or a study was started to relocate the police department to another facility. So while I don't want to make this sound like that we haven't had support, we have had support, but the idea over the last few years was potentially seeing if the police department can move. I think we're at a position now that we understand and we agree that we're probably not going to relocate the police department. That being said, I think $100,000 to address the safety issues that we have, and then potentially move on to a long-term project to address the quality of items here, it would be a blessing. I just think in a town like Long Hill, we should have a police department that's presentable. And not to throw this on your plate, but we're also going to be up against the 100-year anniversary of the police agency in 2024. We might be a little bit behind schedule, but we are going to plan to have an open house. We are going to plan to present our police facility to the public and put it on show. And I would be completely embarrassed to present it in the condition it's in. And in a 3-year plan, hopefully, we can get this place up to spec, at least presentable or up to date, would be greatly appreciated. That basically completes my request for capital. I'll be more than happy to take on any questions that you may have.
So any questions or comments from the committee? So Chief, I guess my only question would be, if we were to put this into a 3-year plan, are you comfortable that the way you've mapped it out would accomplish the goal?
I'd be in a very good position with the current request to at least take care of some of the problems. Now, again, when I say the floor is heaving and the concrete's pushing up, that can go from just a jackhammering that floor to patching it up to remediating whatever water issue that's causing it. So I don't want to say $100,000 is acceptable, because we haven't dug in that far. We don't have the ability to do studies without causing more money. But we have had the DPW come in here and basically take care of some spots long time ago. And they've obviously have come back, not to fault of their own, but whatever is happening underneath that floor needs to be addressed. So it's one of those things where they dig up and they find a bigger problem, and it eats up my budget. But I think we're in a good position to start with 100,000. I think most of us as homeowners would know that, $100,000 doesn't even get you very far in your own building renovations in your own home. So for an entire facility, I think we're being, fiscally responsible to the taxpayers without going too overboard. The conditions of the bathrooms and the access to the bathrooms and the report room, that has to change. I've said this before, and I think we put out a product, and our product is our officers, and we expect them to be held accountable, and we have held them accountable over the years. And it makes it a little bit more difficult to come into a sloppy facility and say, hey, I want you to be clean and your uniforms pressed, and you have to be presentable, when the place and environment that we're giving them to work in is not that. So I ask you to assist me in presenting a professional appearance for the agency.
Yeah, and look, I don't counter anything you said. I support that, of course. I'm just concerned about putting good money after bad, as you kind of, will this really accomplish something? And that's not that to put you on the spot. I don't think you can answer that question. That's my only question that I don't know.
Can I say something?
Yeah, of course, Vic. Go ahead.
I toured the outside of the facility, the inside of the facility, inch by inch, where prisoners are detained, or suspects are detained, to where the public walks in, the upstairs, the downstairs, you name it. If that's going to be the spot where our police station is going to remain in perpetuity, which I'm under the impression it is, that realistically moving it is not happening. If that's the case, I say that we start to do it and do it right. Get the proper flooring in there, because when you know it's going to flood, you got to get tile. You can't have linoleum or PVC that's glued down. If we're going to be in a flood zone, we have to build it appropriately to deal with the floods and deal with the conditions where the building is located. Now, if we're planning on moving it, then I would agree. Listen, why put in a bunch of money if we're moving it? But from what I understand, the talks about moving it have long since stalled. And this is going to be the place that we're going to have our police station located in our community for the foreseeable future. And if that's the case, I think that we need to do it right. We need to have a safe facility that's presentable, that's not in the condition it is in now. Because anybody who has any questions, I would encourage them to go and take a look. Have the chief give you a tour and see what we have. Long Hill's finest dealing with on a daily basis, what we call their headquarters.
Yeah, Vic, I don't disagree with you at all. Hopefully, at least as part of the initial part, is maybe an engineer or somebody who, this shouldn't be something on the chief's plate, is to make sure that it is fixable. That's, I guess, my only comment. There's no question that what we just viewed is not where we should be having our police department in on a daily basis. I don't think that's right for the public. I don't think it's right for the department.
The mayor, I would agree with you. I think that what we're looking at is Band-Aids, and I think we need to have somebody look at the structural integrity of the building. Because, why sink all that money into it and it really is not, it's not, like you said, it's not repairable. They're just Band-Aids. So
right. I think the goal here is that we want our department in a facility that befits the quality of service and the quality of that department, which is excellent by all accounts. I just, we stick some Band-Aids on it and it doesn't work. Where are we? And I don't know how feasible it is to just raise the building and put a new one up in that location. I don't know the answers to that, to those questions.
I think it's just a question of money.
Scott, you're there. I know you are. Maybe I don't know.
I'm here. I was struggling to reach my buttons.
So I guess the question is, at least Vic and I agree 100% with the chief that something needs to be done and something substantial. The question is, what is it?
Well, we don't have a place to put a new a police department, right?
That's been a conversation ongoing. The chief knows it probably since you joined the police department. And we never seem to come up with a location. So I don't think the police chief, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I think you're comfortable with the location, even though it is a challenging location. It's the building that needs to be addressed. Is that a fair comment?
It is fair to some extent. We looked at it and we don't want to put any undue burden on the taxpayers to give us a new facility. We're not looking for a new facility, right? And this facility has existed for a number amount of years and we've been okay. Really, to put into perspective, all I'm asking for is get us in a situation where if we do flood, we can get back in here with limited downtime. Being that, as community member Velez said, tiles instead of vinyl, because you could power wash tiles. It's kind of hard to do that with vinyl tiles or vinyl. It's the peel and stick type of stuff. Not only do we get water, but we also get backup from sewage in the building when we flood. Hopefully, New Jersey American Water will be taking care of that. But in the meantime, the fact of the matter is we will get sewage floating in the building, and that's not really sanitary for the officers. So I'm hoping we don't have to endure any more floods. But if we can at least get the processing room, and it's only in the processing room floor area that we have this issue with the concrete. So there's got to be something, either some kind of drainage or something that can be put there. But like I said, without having an engineering degree, I don't know if that is going to develop into a bigger project and eat up a chunk of that 100,000. If we can fix it and kind of get through for 10, 20 years, it might be worth it to do it. But
And Chief, I agree with you. A lot of it is cosmetic band-aids or whatever. Fixing the fence or the generator is not cosmetic, it's just necessary. The only concern, I guess, that I'm expressing is from a structural perspective. And you can't know that, honestly, until we get an expert in there.
I know that building was built by the military, and I know it's built very, I guess, probably to the best specs at the time that it could have. The water situation is what it is. It is Long Hill, so we've all experienced water issues. So again, I think we could address it if that pressure was somehow released on other floors and some new floor was poured down. But
okay, look, I don't think we're going to answer this definitively, other than to say, and Scott, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I know Vic and I agree. Something needs to be done. That building is honestly a disgrace. So,
Chief, is that building have enough square footage for your operations?
Well, we've downsized. The police department has shrunk in size from 29 to 23. So we've eliminated, unfortunately, some very important resources. But because of the elimination of personnel and offices, we're okay. Our main concern right now as far as space is records, and it seems like we're going to be looking to address that through the administrator and the clerk. So other than that, size purpose is just sufficient for what we have. If we increase, and again, I don't know what the status of the township is going to be in a few years, but if we remain at this size, we should be okay.
And not that I'm suggesting this, but just to ask the question, if we were to rebuild on that site, have we consulted anybody in terms of getting it up off the ground so it doesn't flood?
We have not. The only studies that we have done in this discussion is attaching us to town hall, but with that comes in new aspects as far as the handling of future earthquakes, and you would have to restructure town hall to accommodate the new addition to take on various storms.
I'm talking about the property there. If a new structure was put on that property.
We have not looked at raising this facility and kind of rebuilding it. My guess, without doing a study, is it would probably be extremely expensive over just relocating. But plus the disservice too, or the discontinuation or the access to the building. I don't know how we would function in the meantime. It's been enough of a hurdle in talking to the guys over at Berkeley Heights and transitioning over with their new facility. So I can only imagine trying to redo a current facility that we work out of would probably be a challenge, but we've never looked at it. To answer your question, we've never looked at that.
Okay.
All right, I guess, I don't know if there's any more comments or questions from the committee. If not, Chief, thank you so much for putting a lot of work into your presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. I want to bring up Shane Daly now for REM.
Thank you, Nancy. Hi, Shane.
She's not here yet. Hang on. Okay, Shane, go ahead. You just unmute yourself and you're good to go.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Hi, Shane.
You remuted yourself, Shane.
I'm on a computer with camera. If you give me just a moment, I'd like to come on video. Here we are. Hi, everybody. I think it's the first meeting I've been able to join you all here. So hi, Jack and Mayor, Megan. Good to see everybody. So last but not least, I hope for the OEM department, I just, Nancy, thanks for inviting me, asked me to present to the committee on 2 capital projects that we have for this year for the OEM department. And like a lot of the work we do, these projects will benefit other agencies as well as departments for the municipality and the town as well. So I just wanted to refer you to in your packet, I believe the OEM capital requests are just under the police department on that first page. And we have 2. We have a request for an additional electronic sign, which I'd like, Megan, if you could just put it up on your screen. I'm just going to be very brief. I want to highlight a couple things for you about these signs. So, and then second would be to talk to you again, very briefly about a stationary backup generator for the schoolhouse, which is where we house the OEM department and the EOC. So on the left, you have a summary, which I could share as a follow-up of just some points with regard to the justification for the request, but I just wanted to give you a little visual. So what we're asking for is an additional electronic sign that could be used in the township. We have 12 square miles to cover, and we currently have 1 sign. So as you can imagine, when we have an emergent situation or we're underway with emergency activations or incidents in a disaster, we don't get a lot of coverage for the community. The signs are great for a number of things. In addition to traffic direction, the rec department benefits by the sign with special events. The police department can and does utilize electronic signs for Amber Alerts and crime scene investigations and so forth. So that would be our request for the emergency management department. I just also wanted to remind everybody that our worker safety is paramount to all of us. So in general too, when we do put folks out on the road, such as a large event down at the town hall, if we're going to have our pedestrians walking along, connecting from Valley Mall and other areas, we like to put up signage to help control the traffic direction and control. So these signs really come into play. Are there any questions generally about this request? We came in at about $20,000. That's an average. You can get larger signs and smaller signs, but this is one I'd worked through last year with the police department, and we thought we settled on one that was right in the pocket for an adequate size and maneuverability. We trailer this onto our existing vehicles, so those things are at hand.
And so Shane, do you think the size that you're proposing here is appropriate to accomplish what it is you want to accomplish? I wouldn't want you to try to save $5,000 or $10,000, but in retrospect, prefer a different model or size.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, when I started looking at this last year, I had a smaller sign. So I think this will meet our needs. And
Okay.
additionally, we do occasionally get signs from the county to supplement what we're doing if we have a really large event or project going on. So yeah, thank you. I think it's adequate. And hopefully there's a little room if it were to come in a little on either
Okay.
side of that. But that's a reasonable estimate based on the quotes we had last year.
Thank you, Shane. So Vic, Brendan, Scott.
No questions. I think the signs are a good idea. They're needed.
Yeah, I like it.
Agreed.
Oh, Shane, you were right. Short and sweet.
Well, there was
Thank
also
you.
the generator. Did you?
Yeah, and second, Chief Nagas started to speak about this, so I won't, belabor the point. With regard to just generally, we talked about this before. It would be my vision that all of our municipal buildings, our key infrastructure, all have stationary backup generators. So while I speak for myself, I also would endorse whatever we can do to ensure continuity of operations for all of our buildings, and our first responders are most critical. So we are vulnerable to weather events, and with that we get the straight line winds and power outages. And for all of those reasons and many more, I think I don't need to go into having each building, every building on generator would be very important. The DPW also struggles with this. So they're also a critical part of our emergency services responses during our emergencies and disasters. So I ask everyone to really take a look at this. You can very reasonably, for approximately $12,000, have a basic generator on this building that will do the job. So this building houses your OEM department, and currently temporarily, but we hope to have a home, our SIR team operates out of the building as well. And it's my vision also to appropriately develop a fully functional EOC here. We've been kind of moving the EOC around over the years. We have a meeting room in the second floor of the police department. It's been designated as the primary EOC for years. But that, there's competing forces there when things are going on. So I think some of you would recall, Guy, particularly you, we ended up in the rec department space during Sandy. During Irene, I was on the second floor of the DPW building with Ken and Chief Hedden at the time. So I appreciate that we have the real estate now, and I just want to ensure operations for all concerns at this building. The last storm you had, the first thing I had to do was pack up and go over to town hall and operate out of the space with Lisa for a couple hours to get my operation going. So thank you for your consideration. And are there any questions with regard to the generator?
And Shane, if you don't mind, I just want to add, as far as the generator, that
Thank you.
is a historic building. So when the power goes out, so does the heat in the winter. So we face the possibility of, pipes bursting, things like that. So
Absolutely.
Right. It also helps to alleviate any future damage to a building we put a lot of money into.
Thanks, Nancy. Nancy and I talked about that a little bit too, is that we have some special circumstances with this building that we need to be aware of, and to all of those points. So it's something that I'm in my second, let's say, we moved here in June of 2019. So, we're mobile. We will always be operational. We have very few needs, but I feel very uncomfortable that I'm in a building, and to the degree of the work that we need to do for the municipality and the public, that we don't have the certainty of that key part of our operation.
So Jack, I'm hopeful this is a silly question. The fact that it's an historic building, does that in any way limit our ability to put a, modern, electrical generating device, a generator, and attach it to the building?
No, because it's outside on the ground, so.
Okay.
And it's on the other side.
One never knows when it comes to.
Yeah, it's on the non-historic side,
designation.
so.
Yeah, it's on the.
I would not ask SHPO though, or the county.
Yeah.
I'm not asking.
Mum's the word. Loose lips and all that.
And a final comment would be, last year when we were exploring this, Nancy and I looked at those concerns, Guy. And Lisa Scanlon has been very involved in some of the things that have happened with the schoolhouse as well and
No
HVAC.
doubt.
That
Yeah.
was pretty well explored, and I think we're very confident we can put in a stationary generator that will be very acceptable and not, detract from the historical.
Perfect.
Thank you, Guy. Thanks, everybody. And again, were there any questions or?
Thank you, OEM Director Shane
Thank you,
Daly.
Mayor.
I
Good
appreciate
to,
it.
good to see everybody. Thanks for having me on last as well,
Yeah, no problem.
for whatever that's worth.
All right.
Have a good evening,
Thank you.
everybody.
So,
Thank you.
So Nancy, how do we proceed from here? What?
Well, I just wanted to, if I could, for the administration, I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. One is, as was discussed earlier for the library, every year I believe we have 12 HVAC units and we replace 2 a year. And then I also have in here, as we already discussed, the senior building parking lot repaving. Actually, it's milling, paving, and striping for $31,000. And
Nancy, can I just stop you there momentarily? I think that's a little cheaper than we first discussed.
the $70,000 that they had requested was if they did it themselves. Because we're doing it, we're able to take advantage of the state co-op
Perfect.
pricing.
Perfect.
And then I put in the budget a lighted sign in front of the municipal building. I wanted to put the money in case, but have a future discussion with all of you. I know that signs are very controversial, and we can have you can have a policy discussion on whether you want to do it or not. But I thought that I'd put the money in here in the hope that we could agree on a nice, classy sign in front of the building at some point in the future.
Okay.
So
It won't in any way detract from the happy holiday sign that that Vic, badgered us into making sure was up this year, right? Vic, you there?
I'm here.
I'm protecting you, Vic.
I'm here, brother.
Who loves you?
Thank you.
So I guess how we proceed from here is if you have any questions or anything you need me to look into, let me know either now or later. If any adjustments need to be made to the budget, we'll make them, but our introduction is scheduled for April 14th. And with the final adoption a month later, that first meeting in May. At the first meeting in May, we would be introducing a capital ordinance for, whatever capital items you decide that you want to include. I will say this, that all of the capital items that were discussed here today are in the total that Randy and I were figuring on that we wouldn't need to borrow any money for. It's all from the capital improvement plan. And I should say that most of it comes from money that we do not have to pay for the debt in the sewer plant. So debt service and principal that we had, principal payments we had to make, we would have had to make had we still owned the sewer plant, make up for the majority of the money that is being used for all the capital items. So I guess if you want to talk amongst yourselves, if there's anything that you need to change or take out of everything that the department has just discussed, otherwise, that's the amount that we're going to proceed with, and that's what's going to get introduced. And then at the May meeting, we would be introducing a capital ordinance to fund all of those items.
Thank you, Nancy. So any questions for Randy and Nancy, I guess, at this point from the committee? I don't see any. I just want to thank Randy and Nancy, and for the benefit of the public, at least express this thanks to both of you, because this wasn't just, presented willy-nilly this evening. You worked very closely with the department heads to reach the proposals that were put forth. It wasn't necessarily where we started, but it is where we are now. And I think a lot of good work went into it. 1.5% is commendable. And to remind folks out there, Long Hill Township is one of roughly, was it 5%, 25, about 30 towns at most in the state of New Jersey that are debt-free. So we are working on our budgets, both operating and capital, from a position of strength. And that took many, many years going back to previous committees as well.
So if none of you have any questions, if you want to open up the meeting for public questions and comments.
Sure. So at this point, I'd like to open up the meeting to the public. Now, I guess, and Jack, correct me, Megan as well. It's any topic. Does it have to be related to budget issues? It could be
No,
any topic. It
It's
could
any
be.
topic, because this is a public meeting.
Perfect. So I just want to be clear with the members of the public. Don't feel constrained that this, in fact, was a special meeting regarding the capital budget. If you have questions or comments regarding anything regarding the town, please feel free to bring it up. If you could, please try to limit any comments or questions to 3 minutes in respect of any other member of the public that wants to speak. And at
Okay.
that point, Megan, I guess we also have the question if anything was submitted in writing as well, right?
Yeah, nothing was submitted in writing, Mayor.
Okay, so then anybody in the public, I see a hand is
Right, we do have Pamela Ogan. So Pam, if you could just state your name and address for the record. Go ahead.
Okay, I just had to unmute myself. Pam Ogens, OGNS from Millington. I have, in my professional career, participated in lots and lots of Defend Your Capital Budget meetings. I commend you all on being well prepared. The rule of thumb when I went through these meetings was definitely priority of need. And having listened to Chief Naga, I don't know how they live and operate in those kind of conditions. I have been in the police department only once, having lived in the township 13 years when I registered for the Please Do Not Knock program, and was unfavorably impressed by the fumes of mold and mildew, and couldn't wait to get out of there, wondering if it was an OSHA problem. So I don't know why the discussion to move the police department or construct a new complete police department stalled. But I think perhaps that needs to be looked at again, since to me, it seems we're throwing good money after bad. As far as location, and I don't know square footage that's needed, but there is retail around town that I see vacant buildings. Just off the top of my head, the King's Market, that maybe there's opportunity for getting the police out of those, what I consider pretty deplorable working environment. Also Central Park, is there any opportunity to maybe move the police department up there? But I don't know all those particulars. I just think that the estimate of $100,000 to do improvements was exceedingly modest, and wonder if we should reevaluate lighting improvements for recreational facilities coming in at, I think it was $127,000, weighing the two, $127,000 for lighting improvement at a recreational facility versus our police, and making a facility that has to be improved. I mean, I think it's unhealthy for them to be working there. So that's, I could go on, but I love our library. I am happy to hear the improvements. I've been using their agreement with Canopy to watch movies during this pandemic. Myself, my husband also. And if you prioritize, certainly OEM, that sounds necessary. Road work, yeah, needs to be done. And Deputy Mayor Ray, I'm not sure if anyone's looked at the road right in front of the Millington Fire Department where your trucks come out, but that seems to be pretty beaten up as well. So that might be an area where you might need to put some road work money in also. That's all I have for you today. I really just want to comment on the capital budget that I've just listened to the different departments defend.
Pamela, thank you so much. Those are excellent comments, and on behalf of the committee, we appreciate it. Looking for,
Right, we have another.
okay,
CA, go ahead.
Charles Arenowitz, Millington. I had a lot of questions for all the department heads that spoke tonight. But Chief Naga's presentation floored me. As a 40-year resident in this town, it's deplorable, beyond deplorable, where our officers can't even go to use the facilities without having problems. This is, and used chairs from you, the Township Committee. If you've been there a while on this committee, you all should be embarrassed. I'm embarrassed and I'm not in your position. I just live here as a resident and minorly pay taxes. I had comments on practically every operating head tonight, but Chief Naga's, even everybody says, oh, Zoom is great. I couldn't see any of the pictures because he had a Galaxy or whatever it was. But from his discussions, and I could figure out what picture he was on, it's embarrassing. And you sit there and tout that we have no debt. I'll tell you what, we've got a great police department, and to fix that, we should have been in debt. So don't take great pleasure in stating that we have no debt. If I worked in that police department and lived under those conditions, you need to be investing in that. It's deplorable. I'll get to a couple questions with the fire department. Do we have a capital reserve for the fire trucks? That's a question. Could someone answer?
So Randy, can I turn that over to you?
Yeah, no, we do not.
Why not?
It has not been budgeted.
That, I don't know if that answer is worse than the results of Chief Naga's presentation. We increased the building height in this community from 35 feet as proposed at Gillette office to 59 feet. That's a 68% increase. And now we need a fire ladder truck that goes 100 feet, not to replace something that's been there for 23 years. My question for you as a committee, can we get some of this funding from the Fair Share Housing Center? Can we get commitments from the New Jersey Builders Association? Or can we get donations from the appropriate builders requiring fire equipment to fight this height of a fire? Why should we as taxpayers be responsible for funding beyond 35 feet with a 68% increase to accommodate affordable housing and ruin our rural community? So I'd ask you to check with Fair Share, check with New Jersey Builders Association, and check with all the developers so they could contribute donations so we as a taxpayer do not withstand this burden. And I strongly suggest we start having capital reserves, a unique concept, right? I don't think so. You can tell all you want about what you've done, but you gotta think about that. The other thing I want to talk about is the 1.5% increase in the budget when in fact we're in a pandemic, people are unemployed. This is an appropriate time to get to zero. We've gone through the schools with 7 and whatever it is, 6%, 11% the last 2 years. We need to cut taxes somewhere. And I am not, I am floored at those pictures from Chief Naga. And I hope you all leave this meeting with the same response I do. How can we have a police department work and operate in those conditions and have mandatory legal requirements to maintain records that we don't have because we've got mold on them? And please, please do not tout that we don't have any debt. Boy, I'm sitting here saying we should have been in debt. And I assume you got my email today about the trees and what we've done as being from Arbor Day on a Tree City USA, and you haven't replaced our trees in the Millington Colonial Woods subdivision. I'm at a loss for words for that, and I'll come back to the police department. And then I hear all this stuff. Well, I'm using used chairs. I got trucks that are 23 years old. I've got plows that can't get repaired at the DPW. What are we doing? I think all of you need to look long and hard tonight about your activities. Some of you have been here a year or 3 months. Some of you have been a couple of years. I think some of you have been here 9, 10, 11 years. I am floored. And I'd love a response to get me off the floor here.
Okay, so just a couple of clarifications. The ladder truck that Millington currently uses is 29 years old, not 21 or whatever you said. It would be being replaced with or without the COA obligation that the town is fulfilling. Secondly, and Jack, you're a better place to answer this question, but I think I'm on solid ground by saying I can guarantee you fair share housing and the Builders Development Fund or whatever it is that you referred to.
It's a New Jersey Builders.
Isn't going to, let me finish. You spoke for quite a long time.
Thank you.
Isn't going to contribute a penny, nor are they required to. That's just the nature of the beast.
You're on solid ground, Mayor.
More, I'm sorry, Jack?
You're on solid ground, Mayor.
All right, and nor is the NGEA going to contribute any money to any increased cost regarding the schools. Now, I would say for the benefit of the public, because you bring up some good points, but in the 12 years, so thank you, but in the 12 years I've been on the Township Committee, including this year's 1.5% give or take, we're up to about 15.5% in total, maybe 16%. I would propose you check with any surrounding town to find a town that is coming in at roughly that 1.4, 1.5% average. So I'm quite proud of that. When we first started on this committee, we inherited $19 million of debt that not one person on this committee or the last 10 years for that matter had incurred. So despite the way you characterized it, I am quite proud of the fact that we are now debt free. To your point regarding the police station, I agree with you. Who knows how it evolved to where we are, but that situation has to change, and it has to change as quickly as possible. I think the challenge has been, we've debated back and forth even with previous chiefs, not chief, but chiefs, as to whether it would be optimal from a financial perspective as to whether we would move it. I don't know. And to Ms. Ogden's comments, I don't know how we got bogged down, but ultimately we did not. So I think what the police chief, Chief Naga, proposed tonight is in fact modest, and there were no objections from this committee regarding that. But, you know, Mr. Runtowitz, I agree with you. I think the situation that they find themselves in is not acceptable. I don't know if I commented on everything you said, so I turn the floor back to you.
Yeah, the one comment, we have a 75-foot ladder truck. Now we got to jump to 100. You didn't comment whether you or the Township Committee would solicit donations from the appropriate developer in this town. I mean, there's several developers that are building these 68% increase in height, where they would donate to the fire department. I know some other towns like Liberty Corner, AT&T basically built their fire department.
Right, but I think those are separate entities. I mean, what you're proposing, I don't think is legal. I don't think we can approach a developer.
I'm
And
not
Jack,
making a requirement. I'm saying as a donation to help me as the taxpayers.
We can ask, we can't
Yeah, sure.
mandate.
all right. Hey, you're right, Chuck. It never hurts to ask. Any question that you don't ask, the answer is by definition, no. So if we can legally ask, why not?
Yeah, one other thing tonight, I had a very difficult time following everything. I had no paperwork. I had the agenda. That was it. So when every department head brought their budget forward, I didn't see anything.
If I may just add, I wouldn't ask while applications are pending before one of the boards.
Mayor, if I may, we did approach, I believe it was Tifa. It was Tifa. During a development meeting, the fire official did bring up the fact that because we were, had to employ, hopefully not, but I imagine at some point we'll have to employ a ladder truck there. We did suggest that they might want to contribute, and they politely declined.
Well, why don't you, I suggest you talk to Liberty Corner, because AT&T basically funded their fire department.
I don't know that to be the case, but certainly we can reach out to them and ask.
Well, we always ask what other communities are doing because we want to know.
No, yeah, I think your suggestion is a good one. So thank you.
You didn't comment on the fact that I had no documents to go over with this capital request by the department heads.
So I don't know what was provided to the public. Nancy, is it possible for you to comment on that?
I don't know that we usually do. I mean, these aren't, I don't know, Megan, are these are draft documents, right?
It's all work product and intra-agency.
Correct. So it's not technically a public document until you guys make, some sort of decision on them.
We're in a pandemic. Don't hide behind that curtain.
I don't think anyone's hiding behind it. Previously, there has been no budget documents submitted to the public other than the agenda and the date and time of the workshop.
Was there a pandemic in prior years?
Again, you didn't receive any documents supporting what any of the department's heads have said. So I don't understand how we're hiding behind a pandemic when previously no documentation from department heads have been submitted to the public for review.
Then why did we even hold this meeting if you can't let us see anything?
Same reason we held it last year, because we wanted all 5 committee members present. So it has to be a public meeting, and I wanted them to hear from department heads. We're not obligated, we're not supposed to give out documents, but we wanted it to be.
Are these all secrets because we're the taxpayers and you can spend our money how you please?
They're not.
Well, I mean, honestly, Chuck, I think we're going off on a tangent.
Well, you know what? You know the point is. I took a lot of notes tonight.
No, I know you do. I know you're very assiduous note taker, and I commend you on that. I would just say that I believe Megan and Nancy answered your question. We're not trying to hide anything. We will at the public budget meeting in 2 weeks, I guess, or whenever it is.
2 weeks.
We will discuss it in more detail. Honestly, I think we went above and beyond by even doing this meeting as a special meeting. Certainly, we weren't required to, although I supported it.
Well, thank you for being so gracious.
Thank you, Chuck. As always, thank you.
And no capital items will be purchased until an ordinance is adopted, and then resolutions for the various items that are being purchased.
And Mayor, if I can just make a comment, the introduction for the budget will be on the April 14th meeting, and then the adoption will be on the May 12th meeting.
May 12th, okay. So Chuck, you will have ample time to comment at those meetings as well. But thank you for taking time. Look,
Via
we're all
Zoom,
busy.
right?
You're busy too. No, I'm complimenting you. Chuck, you can't take a compliment, can you?
No, I don't need compliments.
I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to be here. You always keep us on our toes, so thank you. Any other members of the public? I don't see hands just yet, but let's give them a second. I don't see any. So at this point, Nancy, I don't think, or Megan, I don't think there's anything else we need to discuss.
Nope, this was the only thing.
All right, so I want to thank the members of the public who attended. I want to thank the employees of the town who came and presented and prepared for tonight's meeting. I want to thank everybody on the call and looking for a motion to adjourn. And look, it's really hard. And look at Myersville, it's snowing. So I got to get a new picture. So I think the deputy mayor moved and looking for a
Second.
All right, there you go. All in favor?
Aye.
Have a great evening, everyone.
Good night,
Thanks, you
everybody.
too.